Welcome in everyone to episode 121 of Instigate Success Building an ABA Franchise. I am your host back as we've missed the past few weeks. Jake Schoen, aka JK Muffins here. Gonna be back hopefully every Friday night here, 9 p.m. Eastern for eternity. but it's been a few weeks. I think we've missed three-ish or so. Apologies on my end. That was because of traveling over the past few weeks. We've had a lot of stuff going on. We've been all over the place, both physically and in the internet realm. So fun to be back, fun to talk about a lot of stuff. I'm sure we'll get through a lot of stuff tonight, and then we're probably gonna have to rehash some of this, next week. The weeks going on as well, down the road. So let's go back. Let's pull the calendar up and see how long it has been, so we can start from, I guess, where we left off. Um, so I think going into the last episode was going into our final regular season game. So, final regular season game of season 3 for the Instigators. Um, we had the matchup against the Capitals, and I apologize again. You're probably gonna see like me touching the screen, and I have this pen here. My keyboard still does not work, so I'm still just using this pen, stylus, whatever you want to call it, to do everything on this computer. So like write to type, I have to write, and the mouse, because the bottom half doesn't work. It's this is the mouse as well. But anyways, so yeah, so you might see that from time to time. But yeah, the Capitals, if I'm not mistaken, Missouri Capitals, that was our final regular season game. And that was our theme night, our first ever celebrity game, for celebrity player, I should say. And it was an event to be had for sure. If somehow you didn't see it and you're following this, it's surprising. But if you didn't see it, it has been all over our social media. Not only our social media, just social media in general. It's been all over. Um, we won that game. Let's pull up the score. That's what I was doing, pulling up the score from that game. Let's get that going. So that would have been March 1st? No, day before March 1st. It was February 28th. So February 28th was our final home game. And let me see if I can get this pulled up. I apologize for not having everything set up here. Still trying to get everything back in line from all the travels from the past few weeks. And if you've been traveling recently, you probably, or at least flying, I should say, if you've been flying recently, you probably know or have run into some issues with getting through. I apologize because I'm trying to type with this on here, but issues at the airports with delays and etc. So I've been trying to get all of that figured out and situated. I think we have this. Okay. So, anyways, we won that game. It marked the end of season 3 for the Instigators. Final home victory to wrap things up. with the season. And at the end of the season, as things stand, I guess, still at this point, because it's the end of the regular season, anyways. Um, we had our most victories in a single season. We had 8 victories. Our best record overall, 8-6 on the season. Our first winning record. And that obviously is a huge improvement. That's what we want to see year to year. Um, and a little teaser, I guess, because y'all know that it's coming. Um, every year we do the yearly evaluations and whatnot. I'm sure you guys are going to be seeing that over on the Patreon here in the near future. So if you're not a member of the Patreon, join the Patreon, Apex Athletic Collective, and you have your voice heard in key decisions, ownership level decisions, where you and I have the same level of decision making. So I am one of the owners of the team, but if you're a fan on that Patreon and you have fan voting access, you also have that same level of, um, weight with your vote on decisions and the end of season evaluations, etc. Um, we're gonna have a lot of fun stuff that we're working on planning. Getting out during the off season. Want to keep kind of things rolling. With how things ended. It was our, like I said, best season as far as regular season, most wins, and that does ultimately mean that Coach Dobbs, shout out to her, has passed Corey as the winningest coach in history. Obviously total wins as well as single season wins. So unfortunately, that is a title that has been taken away from Frosty, one of the other owners and founders of the Apex Athletic Collective and the Instigators, who had filled in as the head coach for a little bit in our first season. So just a little fun fact for you guys there. But so we had that game. We had our first ever celebrity player. Now this was huge. So I have been trying to get this to go through for months at this point. And this was our third time rescheduling it. Finally, we got everything to line up. The first time I think we had, actually the first 2 times we had weather issue. We had a weather issue the first time, I believe, and then we had to reschedule the game the second time or cancel the game. Um, Due to issues with the opponent traveling and whatnot. So this third time we were like, this is our last game of the season. This was really our last shot to try to get this done this year. We met Brayton. We had our logo. We sponsored him at IRP, and we had our logo on the car a few times, but IRP was the big one for us. We had the fans vote on that. Which of our logos you guys wanted to see and where you wanted it on the car. Just as a reminder, too, that car from IRP that Brayton drove, the number '06 Wayne Peterson Motorsports um, Toyota Camry. I believe Peerless Pumps was the main sponsor. That car is getting a diecast made. So you're gonna be able to get your own little toy, uh, ARCA car for Brayton Laster that's going to feature the instigators on that car. And the cool thing is, it's one of the small ones. It's a 1/64 scale, but they normally sell them in like a little plasticky type see-through thing. And if it is like all the other ones that I've seen recently, at least that I have, you're going to be able to see the Instigators logo through that plastic cutout without even taking the car out of the box, which I think is just going to be awesome. Um, but you can get those, and I think Braden's got them for sale on his website, where you can get them signed they're for pre-order. They're not out yet, but so that's something in the off season to look forward to. Um, or you can go through Lionel as like the official manufacturer of these. I believe you can still pre-order through them. But anyway, so like we had fun with that whole event. We had a great time not only interacting with Brayton and his team, but also with IRP. And so IRP, Indianapolis Raceway Park, Lucas Oil, Indianapolis Raceway Park. They were, who presented this night, the Motorsports Night. So it was Motorsports Night for our final game, our final home game of the season 3. So Motorsports Night presented by Lucas Oil, Indianapolis Raceway Park, featuring our first ever celebrity player, Brayton Laster, the ARCA driver, and he also does have a NASCAR Truck Series start. So he is technically a NASCAR driver. So he came out. He told us he was like, "Hey, I have not played basketball in quite some time." He we talked. We met with him and we talked with him at IRP. He got to meet some of the guys on the team beforehand at that event, and then obviously the night of the celebrity game, or celebrity night, motorsports night, IRP, presented by IRP. He came out and he got to meet the team again. He brought a show car. Awesome. Like, if you were there, that thing was sick. It was literally a car that from his personal, one of his personal race cars, show cars. And they had the Instigators logo on it. They had some of our other sponsors on there, Guide Point Security, IRP, obviously, and then obviously some of his supporters as well on there. And it was super awesome. Like, if you're familiar with, like, the whole racing environment, motorsports environment, just really fun and really loud. So this thing was crazy loud. It had a Corvette motor in it, and it didn't have a transmission, so it was a roller. And he fired that thing up. It took a few cranks, if we're being honest. It took a few cranks, but it fired up. Man, that thing was loud. He did make sure to ask us beforehand if there was any noise ordinance, which I hope there was not, because we were like, go ahead, do it. So anyways, we had that thing fired up. Super cool, super loud. People could get pictures with it as they were entering best choice. And it was awesome, and I really appreciate him and his team, to take the time and wrap the car with Instigator stickers and logos. And not only did they use our team logo and our font for the team font, he even did the number. His number was 13 for the game. And he had the number 13 stylized just like the jersey on the car as the race number. Super cool. So huge shout out to that. That was awesome. And then, if you're familiar with Brayton and his whole racing career, he is the pizza man, and his helmet is wrapped like a pepperoni pizza. And he also had the helmet there on display for people to take pictures with. So just cool, in general, to just have that. That's before the game even started. And then, obviously, he told us ahead of time. He's like, like I said, he let us know he hadn't played basketball in a while. And he told us he just wanted to make sure whatever he did not impact the game in a negative way. And we were like, totally fine. Like, it does not matter. Don't worry about it at all. We're locked. This was our going into the game. We knew we were basically locked into the playoffs. First time we've ever been in that situation. And we knew, we were going to have a good record regardless of the win or lose that game. And we were feeling good. We were having a lot of fun. Some of the guys tried to teach him more techniques and stuff, the ins and outs of basketball. And that was warm ups and whatnot. But he did pick the number 13. So we did ask him what number. That was the number he chose, 13. So he is the first person to wear 13 since our leading scorer from season 1, our best 3-point shooter in history, Lawan Swish Whitney. So obviously there's a lot of expectations that go along with that number 13. And while he did not score quite as much as Lawan, he did put up some record-breaking numbers for the Instigators. So let's pull up this graphic. This is a crazy graphic. If you have not seen it, I am extremely surprised because it just has been everywhere. And when I mean everywhere, I mean everywhere. Um, so let's pull that up. And I apologize. I don't have like just the cutout of the graphic. I'm going to pull you a screenshot from our Facebook. And this is an old screenshot. So I'm going to talk about this and then I might as well just um, pull it live here because why not? So we're going to show this so you see the bigger picture. Um, so you can see there, those were his stats for the game. Obviously, a kind of a Tony Snell effort, it looked like. 0 points, 0 assists, 0 rebounds, 0 steals. 8 minutes on the court, though. Those were 8 invaluable minutes. You might be saying, well, what happened in those 8 minutes? The highlight clips are out. They're over, obviously, on social media. You can go on our Instagram. You can go on our YouTube. The YouTube one is maybe a little bit more of the positive side, but the full aspect, you can go on the Instagram. It's still always positive because for those minutes he was on the court, even though he's got zeros everywhere, uh, he had a plus minus a +1. So technically speaking, he provided us with the ability to win that game um, by having a positive plus minus. When you look at that, you break down and you're really a stat keeper, your ins and outs of basketball. He was a +1 as his plus minus, so he did not do anything to deter from the team, which is exactly what he wanted to do going into the game. He just said he wanted to have a positive. He said he knew he wasn't maybe not going to have a positive impact, but he did because he was +1. But he didn't want to have a negative impact. He definitely did not because we won the game. He had a positive plus minus. And this graphic here that he posted has completely blown up. So I'm going to pull it up on my Instagram here and see what we are up to now, just so we can get that live. All right. So let's cut that off here and let's see. So this is our live. We are at 187,000 likes, over 1,400 comments, 4,400 reposts, and 195 shares, 195,000 shares, I should say. Crazy, absolutely insane compared to the numbers we've had on any other post in history with the Instigators. Brayton texted me this, not too long ago. We've been posting some of our numbers. We're in the millions as far as views. Absolutely insane. Neither one of us expected that from this partnership, and him having the celebrity game, celebrity player for the game. But he texted me. This is a fun text exchange we had. So I was at work and he sent me this message. We kind of knew this was blowing up, and we had seen the one night where it kind of jumped. It was like we see 15,000 likes. We were like, wow, that's a lot. Then the next day we're seeing 30,000. Then it's jumping to like 60. We're just like, wow, like how far can this go? This is crazy. As you see, we're over 100,000 likes, over 100,000. We're almost at 200,000 shares, which is just absolutely insane. That's just on Instagram too. But so a cool text exchange we had. Um, I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing this, but I was at work and he messaged me. He's like, between Facebook and Instagram, that post has had 5.5 million views. Absolutely insane when you think about that. Then he hit me with this. Let me pull it up because I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Um, give me 1 second here. All right. and obviously everybody I know has been blowing up my phone as well because of it. But so 5.5 million views. Then he hit me with this. That's more than the population of 26 states. That's crazy to think about. Over half of the states. Um, but just it's crazy. I don't think any of us expected it to blow up that much. Um, Obviously, we're going to work on getting Brayton here for one of the podcasts in the future. I think he does a lot of live streaming also on uh, like card trading cards and stuff on whatnot. And when we're not live, go ahead and watch him, support him. Obviously that we want to continue this partnership in the future. And if you haven't seen, we've made a bunch of Brighton related posts since then. One of the other things is you can also get your very own. This is something he wanted us to do too. You could get your very own Brighton Laster jerseys as well. So you could get an Instigator Laster jersey. And although they were intended to be Brayton Laster jerseys, we have had somebody tell us that maybe it's not just a Brayton Laster jersey; it could be a Dane Laster jersey as well. So we shared that on our Facebook, I believe, as well. Dane is his father, but so we've been having fun with this, and it's a really cool thing to see that happen and to have that pick up and take off the way that it did. Obviously, opening eyes not only to our basketball team, but instigators, Hoosier State, the Indiana basketball in general. Brayton, his racing career. He actually made an announcement recently. He's going to be doing some part-time racing this year. Again in the Arca Menard series. So hopefully we can. Hopefully we will be back in the car at some point. And we'll work something out so we can hopefully do something like what we did last year where we had the fans vote on that. But so that's cool. And then obviously then that opens the doors for us in the future for more celebrities, hopefully. But I will say, one thing that we, as not only the instigators but the Apex Athletic Collective, as as a whole community, is we're not the type of people we're going to ever forget those who have helped us make it to where we are. And Brayton definitely, and maybe I haven't 100% confirmed this with everyone else, but I will go on record. If somebody wants to overrule me on this, they can try to, but I will overrule as far as it goes. Brayton Laster has a spot on the Instigators as a celebrity player any season that he wishes to do so. That's from me. So next season, expect to see him back at some point. Hopefully, donning the Instigators jersey again as our celebrity player. But super fun, super cool event. Just crazy exposure that it brought not only us but him, the league, the playoffs, etc. And just crazy. It blew out of proportion from what we expected. If you were there at the game, I hope you all had a great time. Super fun. And Brayton and his family and his supporters, we had a great time having them out there, and they've been super helpful and supportive of our team too. And it's just great to have this mutual effort and support between the instigators and Laster Motorsports and their race team and etc. Having everybody, kind of, because we're kind of in a similar boat when you think about it. We're in the semi-pro basketball realm. He's in the mainly Arca Menards is like where he primarily drives, but he also does local tracks. And it's we're both trying to get we have that group where we have our footing, but we always want to be growing and growing, and to be in that kind of similar path, and for him to be a local as well, in Indiana native, to have that, kind of bond over that experience, just super cool, and definitely something we want to continue to grow with in the future, and have him being a part of that. So that was super cool. But that's how we wrapped up our season, was with that motorsports night presented by Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, with Brayton Laster as our celebrity player. Um, but yeah, you can get your jersey, you can watch his highlights. If somehow you haven't come across that stat line, go ahead, like it, share it, repost it. And we're just gonna continue to blow up that post, I guess. Um, and it's just crazy to see. We had expectations, but obviously I think that blew everybody's expectations out of the water when we seen that. Uh, but just absolutely insane. So that's how we wrap things up going into the end of the season. So let's pull up. We're gonna go to. I guess this is probably the easiest way, is just pull up the current. Yeah. Unless, let me see if this does it. No, that's it. Okay. Let's see if it's on here. Okay, yeah, so we're just gonna pull that up, and then we're gonna run off of this. So we're gonna go and take a look at the playoffs. So going into, or going out of that game, we again solidified our best record, and 8-6. So I don't know 100% how the seeding worked on this, because win percentage, I think we were higher technically. Should have been the 2 seed, but we were the 3 seed. Regardless, let's just pull this up and take a look. So this was our first time actually. We'll talk about that first. So this is our first time actually not being in the play-in round of the tournament, or the playoffs, I should say. Play-in round of the playoffs. It was our first time ever securing an actual playoff spot. So obviously that's another huge milestone for us, with the Instigators, and we had never made it to that spot where we were in an actual playoff game. And obviously, this was our first one. So we're gonna take a look over there, and this is gonna show, like, obviously where it stands currently. But we're gonna take a look at down memory lane here, like I said, because we've missed a few weeks. So this is our Central Region, Blue Division. And you can see there, so the play-in game was between the Shuckers and the Legends. The Legends moved on from that matchup, and the Legends then went to travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steel City Yellow Jackets, the number 1 seed in the region. Yellow Jackets had 2 losses on the season. I believe it was to the Fury and the Extreme. Obviously, Fury, the defending champions, and the Extreme, the team that was number 1 for the longest time in the season, and then at the end of the season, for whatever reason, they did not lose a game. They dropped to number 2 or 3 or whatever. They're not number 1 anymore. I don't know the reasoning behind that. Anyways, here it's neither here nor there, but I think Silicon Valley Panthers jumped up to number 1. Yeah, the Yellow Jackets, though, were the number 1 seed in our division. In our matchup, we had us as the number 3 seed and the Lions as the number 2 seed. So we were on the road playing the Lions for our first playoff game, and we got our first ever playoff victory. Um, so that was a huge thing for us. Our first ever playoff victory, and then obviously we did that against, um, the Lions, the team that I feel like a lot of us have kind of like looked up to, kind of as the standard for Indiana ABA basketball. I also forgot to mention that the game, our final regular season game, the one where Brayton played as a celebrity player, we won that game, and he played as a celebrity player. But not only that, he matched up against a few of our former players, which is actually, I think, a cooler thing to mention as well. So on the Capitals, who have been on the Instigators in the past, Jojo Hart, Jojo played on the Instigators the past 2 seasons. This was his first season, not on the Instigators since we've been around. So Jojo's one of our guys that we've had on the team for a while, and we played against him. We played against um, Stunna Boy, Kevin Cameron. Stunna Boy was on the Instigators, I believe, for a portion of last season, and then maybe a portion of this season too. So guys that had been on the team, and he's doing he's still doing a bunch of stuff. He's got his rap career, and he's making some car videos too. I believe he's got some other stuff going on as well. But cool to see him back, in a game against the Instigators. Venice, V Brown, AB's brother, he was there. He was playing for the Capitals as well. Somebody that had played on the Instigators in the past for a few different times. And then also one more guy. Who was the final guy? And I apologize for blanking on this. It's Anthony. If yeah, yeah, it's definitely that's who it was. It was yeah, Anthony as well. Playing him. He was on the Instigators last season, so that was our. I believe he was in one of our commercials we shot last year. So he was around for that last season. But so four former Instigators players was cool to match up against them. But anyways, back to the playoffs. So the Instigators, we secured our first ever playoff victory. That's what I was doing. I was pulling up the score from that game. What's the score? So the score for that game was 102 to 83. So one of our best team efforts, I would say, to date. Um, we had an even bigger lead than that, and we kind of backed off at the end just to make sure we didn't get fouls called and etc. But dude, to hold the Lions under 100 in a playoff game, obviously that's a feat in itself. Um, we had 103, so maybe not our highest scoring effort, obviously, but defensively very solid. And when you win by almost 20 points against the Lions, and they are technically the higher seed, that was huge. To go on the road, even though it's close, close to home, but go on the road into the Lions' den and to take them down in a playoff game is a huge milestone, I feel like, for the Instigators, and kind of a stepping stone, I feel like, for what we can do and what I hope to see us grow on in the future. So that was our first playoff victory. Obviously that put us in the spot where we had to go to Pittsburgh and face the Steel City Yellow Jackets for the title of the division. And that was by far our longest travel of the season. Um, I can just share my travel as well. So I was up. I live in Florida, and I've shared this numerous times. I live in Florida, but I travel up to the games when I can. So it's just been hectic for me with the traveling, and that's why I apologize. I didn't have as nice of a setup as I have in the past with some of these graphics, and I'm kind of just pulling off of other sites. And shout out again to Minotaur Streaming because that's the site I'm using right now. Minotaur does an amazing job with keeping up with the ABA and making these wonderful graphics that we can share and use to keep up to date with the ABA and the playoffs. So shout out to them. They were also there to live stream and commentate for that um, first playoff game for us against the Lions too. So if you didn't watch that, you can catch that over on their YouTube with their excellent commentary. Um, but just a shout out again to Minotaur Streaming, who does an amazing job. Um, but so, anyways, for me, I traveled up. I was there for Motorsports Night. I kind of helped set everything up with that, so I wanted to make sure I had. I was there physically in person to see it come to fruition. And like I said, just I was blown away by how that turned out. I was just ecstatic with the turnout from that. Quite honestly, we had our best crowd of the season as well. I didn't mention that, so our best turnout in person as well. Obviously, when you have a celebrity player, I feel like that definitely helps too. Um, and obviously, being the last regular season game, so you're not guaranteed to have the next matchup. Um, so we had that. I flew up again the next week for the playoff game. I'm not going to miss the playoff game. And if you're familiar with me and the instigators throughout the past 3 seasons, every time we get into the playoffs, I braid my hair. So I took the braids out, unfortunately, already. So I didn't get to make any of the podcast episodes this year with the braids, just because traveling has been crazy. Um, but yeah, so I was up there for that. We got to see our first playoff victory, and then this past weekend, going to Pittsburgh, which just was crazy. So the week going into our first playoff game, there's just nuts at the airport. I was in line for TSA for like 2 hours, which is crazy because I never show up that early, but for whatever reason, it was I hit 40 hours on the week and I had to leave for work. Anyways, that's here nor there. But that's what it was. I left early because of that. And I was there early, obviously, because of that. And luckily it worked out because I didn't realize TSA was going to take 2 hours to go through, which it did. And I was able to make it with about 10 minutes before my flight, or before the doors closed on the flight. So I made it. It was good. Then on this past weekend, the flight got delayed severely to the point where I couldn't make it. You know what I'm saying? So I took a flight up to Charlotte, which, if you're familiar with the map, that's about halfway to Pennsylvania. So had I driven, it probably would have been about 13 to 14 hours. And Charlotte's just about halfway there. So I landed in Charlotte. I've got family in Pennsylvania, so I drove up to my family. It's about another good 7.5 hours to drive. So there was no flight I could catch to make it in time. So I got a rental car at the airport, drove up with very little sleep to no sleep, and made it. I made it. I got my family and met up with my family, and we drove out from there to the game in Pittsburgh. Um, so just for me on a personal note, first time I've ever had family come out to an Instigators game. So for me, it meant a lot. To have that and share that experience with them at the game. Obviously. Um, it means a lot with the support that I have from the fans, and I love the interactions and being able to meet the people in person. Um, but it obviously hits home a little bit differently when it's something on a more personal, somebody that's known you for your whole life to have out at the game. um, but it was super cool, super fun to be able to do that and have that experience, even if I did only have 1 hour of sleep that whole weekend. And then I made a promise for my work to be back there on Monday morning and be there. So I did. And again, it was not easy. My flights got delayed. Crazy again. I did not get back at my home until, or apartment, whatever, until about 3-ish in the morning. Um, and it was after 3. It was like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then obviously the tradition is I have the braids while we are in the playoffs. We are no longer in the playoffs, so I took my braids out. And that was a process. By the time I finished that, I had about an hour until I had to go to work or leave for work. So that was the second hour of sleep I got this weekend. So I had 2 hours of sleep this weekend. I apologize for that. 2 hours. But then I made it to work and, worked a full day. So, anyways, that's my personal traveling experience. But I think we've always been open as far as the ownership group, kind of giving you guys the inside perspective of what it's like to be in our shoes. With this podcast, especially being kind of like that talking point for us to do that and share these experiences with you. So while it may not be 100% related to the instigators, I feel like it's a shared experience, a shared human experience between us. um, me being a co-owner of the team, but not only a co-owner, a fan of the team, and being able to share these experiences with you guys and everybody that joins us here on the podcast. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing this without your support. And I hope you can relate to these experiences. And I hope that me sharing these stories and whatnot, um, kind of provides you guys with the insights of seeing what it's like to be a part of this, and just to see how much we really do care, um, and appreciate all the support and everything that everybody puts into this. You know, so anyways, going back onto the game, so we had a game against the Steel City Yellow Jackets out in Pittsburgh, and we knew it was going to be a difficult game. With obviously the travel is a big thing, um, because you never know. With us that being that like our biggest road trip of the season, you never know how it's going to work when the team travels that far. Um, obviously there's going to be some fatigue with it, but there's also going to be some energy, I feel like, because you're in that new place. um and obviously this is a playoff game, it's for the division title, so you're going to have some energy from that too. um but we were out there for that game. We held with them pretty well, I feel like, through half for sure. For half for sure. The third quarter, I feel like most of the third quarter. Fourth quarter, though, we kind of let things get away from us. And I think it's kind of the story that we've seen pretty much, I feel like, almost every year with the Instigators, is at the end we kind of just get in our own heads a little too much. Again, this is my perspective, so you're more than welcome to have a different perspective. But my perspective, I feel like we just get in our heads a little too much sometimes, and ultimately that is kind of what set us behind. And we just couldn't jump over that, and I think that's ultimately what held us back from staying with the Yellow Jackets throughout the game, and they kind of went on the run because of some of those lapses. But that's not to take anything away from the season or the team at all. I feel like we definitely made leaps and bounds and strides this year. And this was obviously our best season. I mean, I don't think there's really any way to dispute that. The most wins in a season, our first winning season, our first playoff victory, our first chance at a division title. Um, I think just as far as the basketball side goes, by far, that was our most successful season. Um, and then, on the social media side, having millions of views, obviously we kind of blew up with that too. So that's from my perspective, I feel like we had a very good season. Obviously, you're never going to be fully satisfied when you have some room to grow. So obviously, we still have room to grow. There's always going to be room to grow, and I'm hoping next year we can take it one step further. So I think the goal next year is a division title. Obviously, we want to have a banner of some sort. So I think that's going to be our goal as far as things go. But I also just I want to shout out. Our first time we've played pretty much all of these teams in the blue division. We're familiar with the Shuckers, we're familiar with the Legends, we're familiar with the Lions. But I do just want to shout out Steel City for their hospitality. They were very welcoming. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm not from Pittsburgh though, but very welcoming crowd, and welcoming team, facility, everybody involved with that. So I do just want to say we really appreciate the hospitality. Not only for me and having my family there, but the team as well. I feel like everybody was you know uh, class act with that. So, and when you go and travel to somebody or someplace far away, we appreciate that type of stuff. Um, but I just felt like at least everybody I interacted with, it deserved that shout out too. Steel City though goes on to face the. Might as well scroll down here. Up, I should say. Nashville Aces. So the Aces have won their division. Um, they took down the Kings, who the Kings have only lost to the Aces. The Aces have not lost yet. So Steel City is definitely going to have their hands full with this matchup here, and that's a huge travel for them actually, from Pittsburgh to Nashville. So obviously, safe travels and wishes for them this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be a pretty good matchup, if I do say so. Um, and we are looking forward to that matchup. See who comes out from the Central Region to represent, because then they will also have a matchup between the other two Central Region matchups, which is the Chicago Fury, the defending champions, and the 402 Elite from the White Division. So we got those two matchups going on. Again, we're over on the Minotaur site here. Let's see if they've got just. So I think that's what we were on. Yeah, that is what we were on. So that's what we got as far as in the Central Region. I know I'm kind of pushing the time, and like I said, I think over the next couple of weeks we're going to be, um, kind of repeating ourselves a little bit, because we are kind of catching up from the last couple of weeks. And let's jump over to the scoreboard and take a look around the league, see where things kind of fell out within the rest of the league for playoffs to see where we're at. And then we do have one final thing I want to hit too before we sign off for tonight. All right. So let's get that screen share. All right. So we've got on here. These are going to be the play-in games here. There's not going to be playing games. So we got. I'll just go to here for our playoff games. So the weekend of our games, we see. Let's take a look and see if we see any big names here. Looks like, as far as, I will shout out all the teams that were the lower seeds, obviously the away teams here, that did win. So the Midlothian Marshals looks like they took down the Chaos. Obviously, us being a lower seed, even though we had a better win percentage, took down the Lions, and the Stonecrest Strong Steppers actually took down the Atlanta Aliens, who have been a pretty good team from what I've seen this year. Um, then shout out to the Kings with a 208-138 victory over the Pros, who the Pros have been hot at the end of the season. Um, Kings with a 200-point game, just crazy. Chicago Fury, obviously we know them with a victory over the Chicago Rebels. And then Clarksville Phoenix over Knoxville Commerce in a state battle. Then we had the Windy City Inferno taking down Chicago Knights. Boston, I'm not sorry. Boston lost to New England Lightning. Lightning have been one of the top teams ranked throughout the season. Austin Bats also towards the top with a win. Buffalo Extreme obviously continuing. Mississippi Silverbacks, another team that I believe that had been undefeated on the year, with a victory there. Nashville Aces, again, we mentioned that already, progressing. Same with the Steel City Yellow Jackets, and then the SVP Silicon Valley Panthers, obviously progressing there as well. Then looking at this past weekend, Austin Bats continue theirs, and it looks like there's only one team that was not the favorite that won, and that was the Arizona Fire took down the Tucson Buckets in a 1-point matchup there. But the Fury took down the Knights. Extreme took down Wyoming Valley Clutch in a very tight game. Actually, if you kept up with that game, it was very close. Maybe not something that you had expected, seeing how the Extreme played throughout the season. Only a 2-point victory for them, 135-133. Also a tight matchup between San Jose Wolfpack and the Silicon Valley Panthers. It was a 4-point victory for the Panthers in that matchup. And then obviously you have the Aces with the victory over the Kings, pretty handedly though in that one. I think the Kings are going to try to find a way not to play the Aces next year if they want to get further in the playoffs and go undefeated. But anyways, you had that. Silverbacks as well with keeping up their wins. And then the other, it looks like, upset was the Hartford Colts over the Long Island Strong Arm. So that led to these matchups for this weekend, which has some interesting matchups here. We see obviously the Chicago Fury and the 402 Elite, which we've already hit on. The Florida Tropics, which I will shout them out. This is their first season, obviously playing a lot off of the semi-pro team, the Flint Tropics. It's the Florida Tropics. They're in a matchup against the Chattanooga Strike. This is going to be a big game here. I feel like the Silverbacks versus the Austin Bats. Those are two of the better teams in the nation that we've seen throughout the season. Obviously, the Buffalo Extreme, one of the best teams that we've seen throughout the season, taking on the Lightning, who have been also towards the top of the rankings. So those are going to be some good matchups there. Not as familiar with the Delaware Dogs or the Hartford Colts, so we'll see that matchup. But we are very familiar with the Steel City Yellow Jackets and the Nashville Aces. And I think if I had to circle my game to watch for the week, it is going to be them. And I'm not sure if you all are under the same, cheering theory as far as if you lose, you want to have the team you lost to win it all. But I think for me, that's how I'm feeling right now. So if we can't win it, we might as well. I feel like we're going to cheer for the Steel City Yellow Jackets, so that way we can feel like we got knocked out by the champion. And if they lose, then whoever they lose to, I hope wins the championship. So on and so forth. But anyways, so that's the matchups we got for this weekend. Keep an eye out. I'm sure, again, if you follow Minotaur Streaming, they're going to be posting a bunch of stuff, keeping you guys up to date with the scores. They also do a pretty good job at telling us when there are live streams as well, for the games, which, for our first matchup against the Lions for the playoffs. They streamed that. Then our game with the Steel City Yellow Jackets, there was a live stream as well through the Yellow Jackets, and they shared that. So they do very good at keeping us up to date on all that type of stuff as well. So as far as game action for the games within our region, follow them. And then as far as across the board, they're good at keeping up with winners and losers across the league as well. Um, so that's what we've got as far as the playoffs go. And again, I'm gonna pull off of the Facebook I've got up here too. But we're running close to that hour mark. I know it's an hour long podcast. So before we hit that, I do want to share one more thing. And then, like I said, we're probably going to be spending the next couple of weeks catching back up and rehashing some of these things. Like I said, that the motorsports night presented by Lucas Oil IRP really blew up. That was crazy. I mean, I feel like we had to cover a lot of that tonight, just to talk about how much that blew up. I mean, millions of views, just crazy. Again, to have that happen. So before we go, though, I do just want to give, I guess it's a shout out to myself in a way, but a shout out to us, not just me, but us. Not only us as the Apex Athletic Collective, the ownership group, but for the fans. Really, the fans are why we did this. A bunch of us came from that fan controlled football league, and kind of spun off that idea. And, really, the ultimate idea and ideology behind the Apex Athletic Collective was to present the fans ownership level experiences by being a fan. Ultimately, that's really what it was. So let's pull this up real quick. I don't even know if you're going to be able to read that. Maybe you can. But anyways, so from the Apex Athletic Collective today, we want to thank everybody who has helped us get to this point. But today marks the 3-year anniversary of the Apex Athletic Collective. So I felt like we have to at least shout this out because it's today. We're gonna probably talk more about this next week as well. But 3 years, crazy to think. We've had 3 seasons, and us coming from the fan controlled side, this was a huge milestone for us with season 3. We completed season 3. We grew again. Going into season 3, finishing season 3, we feel like we're at a really good spot right now, kind of growing on where we have been. And for us to jump from fan controlled had 2 seasons, so that was kind of our benchmark to see, like, can we get past where they were, which now that we finished season 3, obviously the ABA playoffs are still going on, but we have finished our side of season 3. We can say we have officially completed 3 seasons. We have officially outlasted fan controlled football, which is just amazing to us. And, we wouldn't be able to do this without the support of our fans, our players, our coaches, our sponsors, all of our supporters, our communities, everybody that has had any kind of impact with the Apex Athletic Collective. Because we wanted it to make it here, but to see it come to fruition is just, it's a great thing to see, but maybe not something that we always thought was a reality. Obviously there's ups and downs in business and whatnot, but to do this, and if you put it on a comparative scale, on a shoestring budget compared to what fan controlled had, obviously fan controlled was pretty kind of transparent, I feel like, with some of their funding and finances. With obviously they had millions when it came to funding. We are nowhere near that, and we just this year broke millions on the views, which was or visits or whatever, which is huge for us, but still nowhere near that for the finances. But season three, year three, shout out to everybody in the ownership group as well. I'm gonna say maybe the person that put their name first may have also wrote this. Gonna take a wild guess and say that maybe not, maybe so. But James Stevenos, Spacely, everybody knows Jay Spacely, Corey Kern, everybody knows him as Frosty. Got Rob, the cameraman, the OG cameraman. We got Sven, obviously myself and Joe, and all of us from the bottom of our hearts. We just want to say thank you for supporting us and helping create the AAC. Obviously you had your fan votes that helped us create that, launch the instigators, create our team, continue to build our team, and continue to build success. And obviously we really appreciate this, and we look forward to the next 3 years, and and further and further and further. But we hope that what we've been able to bring so far has provided you guys with that ownership level experiences that we've wanted to do, and hopefully we can continue to do more and more of that in the future. Obviously that is our goal, but we'll pull that back. But anyways, I know we are at that hour mark. But again, we just want to thank everybody for helping get us to not only year three, but season three, completing season three. Um, it's a huge milestone. I feel like this year was a lot of huge milestones, not only for um, us on the ownership side, but I feel like for fans as well. A lot of new experiences, a lot of new milestones, and a lot of things to build on for next year. So we are going to have a lot of exciting announcements coming up here for next year, or as next season, etc. But we're gonna have more fan votes. We're working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I guess I can leak this too because I'm in the ownership group. We had an owner meeting last night just about some of the fun stuff that we're working on. And sooner than later, I should say, we're going to be able to share some more information on that. But I would say expect to see something probably in the near future over on the Patreon, kind of like that end of season evaluation that we have always traditionally done. Um, things that you like, things that you think we can improve, and obviously we take those um, comments and your feedback, and we really do build off of that. And obviously you can see year one to year two, year three, year one, year two, kind of same outcome. Year two to year three, and obviously year one to year two, I feel like we kind of had a little bit more of a different situation. We had to kind of figure out the coaching a lot more from that time to year one to year two. Year two to year three, we had the same coaching, and year three now you guys get to evaluate that again. But I feel like we made a huge step forward as far as everything. I mean, we had our best record, winning record, first playoff game. We blew up with the celebrity player game. Maybe if you guys have some celebrities you want us to see, or you want to see on the court with the Instigators, let us know that too. um, but just a lot of stuff for us to catch back up on. I apologize again for missing the past 3 weeks. It has been, um, but at some point, 100%, I'm going to tell you, we're going to get Brayton Laster on this podcast, and we're going to hear his perspective of that infamous motorsports night game from him too. You can watch those highlights, get his jersey, and then obviously just show love and support for everyone involved with not only us on the Instigators, but him as well. Brayton Laster, you can follow him on social and check him out. Just cool to be a part of that as well. Um, but anyways, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up here for tonight's episode. We'll be back next week again, 9 p.m. Eastern. I should be back on track at least for the foreseeable future. I will say there may be one night here coming up in a few weeks, but I'll give you guys a heads up the week prior, if I do have to miss that. But anyways, we we're gonna catch back up, get back on the roll here with Instigate Success, building an ABA franchise weekly. 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday nights here, streaming live on the Hoosier State Instigators YouTube, your official podcast of the Hoosier State Instigators. This has been episode 121, and we just want to say thank you again one final time before we sign off. Enjoy the games this weekend, and I guess we'll catch back up next week. More in depth on some of the stuff we didn't get to jump into some, and we're also going to keep up and catch up with the ABA playoffs and see where everything stands with that. And until next time, as always, I got the shirt this time. I made the shirt. It's not for sale yet, but if you guys like it, maybe it will be for sale. Be great and escape. We'll see you guys.